I'm Ethan Caldwell, 34 years old, living in a high-floor apartment in downtown Seattle. Last year, I sold a tech startup for $5 million, no wife, no kids. If you looked at my bank app and my view of Elliott Bay, you'd think I won life. But money doesn't fix all the old things. And it definitely doesn't fix my father. Robert Caldwell used to be a big name in Bay Area real estate. Groundbreakings, handshakes, magazine spreads, with his square jaw tilted toward the future. Then deals soured. Partners sued, drank harder. He didn't try to control my life, tried to control my wallet. His eyes, I wasn't a son anymore. I was a walking ATM with the pin taped to his hand. This morning, I stood in front of my mirror and buttoned a dark green shirt, my mother's favorite color. Today was her 60th. The whole family would gather at the old house in the suburbs outside San Francisco Whitesiding. 2 stories, a backyard we used to turn into a baseball field. I took a breath and checked my eyes. Calm, or close enough. I got into my X7 and drove south, past the airport, over the bridge, onto tree-lined streets with mailboxes I could still name from memory. The afternoon light made everything look kinder than it really is. I turned up the radio. It helped a little, not much. My mother was already waiting at the door when I pulled in. Margaret Caldwell, silver hair pinned up, brown eyes that could erase any hurt just by looking at you. She smelled like lavender. She hugged me and the nickname I hated when I was 12 leaked out of her anyway. "My handsome boy," she whispered. I hugged her back, and my ribs remembered what home felt like. The party was in the backyard. Lanterns hung from string. Jazz hummed from a speaker on the porch. Aunt Susan laughed too loud. Cousin Jake tried to cut the cake and turned it into a landslide. Everyone made that soft, polite noise people make at family parties when they're trying to make room for each other's past without tripping over it. Robert stood in a corner under the maple tree like a shadow that knew our last. Name, gray suit, red tie, a glass of red wine he kept lifting and setting down like a prop. He saw me. He smiled a straight line that never reached his eyes. I kept moving. Hugged people. Asked about kids. Avoided the corner. 10 minutes later, his voice found me anyway. "Ethan." I turned. It was closer than I thought he'd risk getting. Held a glass of wine. The light caught it. It looked innocent. Then I saw it. Not a lot. A flick of his wrist. The smallest shimmer from a little brown bottle. His thumb covered the label as he capped it. He slid the bottle into his jacket pocket. Like a coin disappearing behind a magician's knuckles. "Have a drink with your father," he said, presenting the glass like a peace offering. He leaned in so only I could hear the next part. "To my millionaire son," he smiled. Mysterious, satisfied, like he'd finished a task. I took the glass. My hand was steady. My throat wasn't. The old scars in my mind, the ones from when I was small and he wasn't woke up with a prickly heat. I thought of him dragging me out of bed drunk at midnight just to make noise. No lesson, no reason, just power. My mother was 20 feet away, laughing with Aunt Susan. I didn't want to spoil her party. I didn't want to put fear into her eyes on her birthday. I put the glass near my lips, smelled it, rich tannins. Nothing strange. People expect poison to smell like movies. Smells like nothing. I lifted my eyes to his. He was watching me. Holding his own glass, a twin of mine, his other hand. I tilted mine, wet my lips with the smallest sip, then stepped closer to clap his shoulder as if I were feeling sentimental. "To you too, Dad," I said. To the man who taught me exactly what not to be, it sounded like a joke. Some people nearby chuckled. He didn't. He turned his head toward the crowd for half a second, just half to make sure I'd said. It's soft enough no one would hear, and in that half second, as I swapped the glasses. I'd learned sleight of hand in a dorm room once, not cards, just basic tradecraft. Move what they expect to be static. Leave what they expect to be moving. I slid his glass into my left hand, set mine into his right. It looked like I was adjusting my grip. That's all. He looked back. He didn't notice. He was too busy watching my mouth for a swallow. We tapped. RIMS. I made a show of drinking. He drank for real. He swallowed. I watched his throat work. He didn't flinch. Whatever he'd added wasn't fire. It was quiet, special, he said, and this time the word sounded like a trap closing. Special, I agreed. If you've ever stood next to a person, you don't trust and pretended to, you know how long a minute can be. This one lasted forever. People moved around us. Someone cheered because a kid made the cornhole shot from too far away. The jazz song ended, and another began. Conversation picked up and dropped. He watched me. I watched him. My mother called my name across the lawn and waved the knife she used to correct my cousin's cake disaster. I smiled at her and the blade flashed like a warning. I pretended not to understand. My father's smile faded first, not enough for anyone else to notice. Just a small slippage around the corners. He blinked once too long. He adjusted his tie with a jerky flick. His fingers missed and got the knot wrong. There, I said lightly, reaching toward his tie like I was going to fix it. I didn't touch him. I didn't need to. I wanted him to feel how close I could have been, how close I wasn't. He lifted the glass again, took a smaller sip, and swallowed with more work than the sip required. A small muscle jumped in his jaw. He set the glass down on the table without looking at it. He looked at me harder instead. "What did you do?" he whispered. I tilted my head. "What did you do?" I whispered back. He stepped back. The lawn under the maples tilted under him in a way grass isn't supposed to. He covered the movement with a cough. The cough didn't need covering. His balance did. He tried to take a step, and the step arrived before his foot was ready to own it. He reached for the edge of the table and knocked a spoon. It clattered. People turned. My mother's laughter stopped mid-note. He blinked like someone who wanted to adjust his vision but couldn't remember which button to press. He opened his mouth to say something clever. Nothing clever came out. The sound did a soft, confused. He set his hand on his chest like something there had surprised him. Then he sat down when there wasn't a chair. People gasp at strange times. The gasp started small and then went around the backyard like a wave. "Robert," my mother said. She was already moving through the crowd, the cake knife forgotten on the table behind her. I was beside him in 2 steps. I put my fingers on his wrists like a son checking on a father he loves. His pulse kicked in my fingers, odd rhythm, slower than it should have been. He looked up at me, and for the first time in my life his eyes held something I had never seen in them before. "Fear. Call 911, I said, not loud. But in the voice people obey when they're not sure what else to do. Aunt Susan's phone was already out. She jabbed the screen with fingers that couldn't decide if they were shaking. "Sir," someone said into my father's face. My cousin's husband, Nate, who works in construction but has first aid training, look at me. "We're going to get you checked out." My mother knelt in the grass. "Robert," she whispered, touching his cheek. She looked at me. The question was a scream in her eyes. I couldn't answer it without tearing her birthday in half. So I held my father's pulse like it was the only task I had, and watched the second hand on my watch slide to slow. The paramedics arrived fast. Their boots crushed the grass we grew up on. They did the calm, efficient dance people do when they've practiced saving strangers. They asked about alcohol, about meds, about allergies. No one volunteered that he'd poured something into my wine. No one had seen it but me. They loaded him. The siren cut the warm afternoon in half. My mother grabbed my arm. "Come," she said. "At the hospital, fluorescent light replaces air. It's the law." We sat in a waiting room, with chairs made for people who don't plan to get comfortable. My mother's hand shook. She tried to stop it by trapping it in her other hand. That just made 2 hands shake. "He'll be okay," I said. It was the kind of sentence people say when they want it to be a spell. She nodded as if she agreed with my spell. Then she leaned close so the other families wouldn't hear. "Ethan," she said, "what happened?" I looked at my shoes, at the tile, at the door where nurses came and went, at the vending machine that pretended to be a friend. I thought of red wine in my father's glass. I thought of a small brown bottle. I thought of my mouth saying special, like a joke and meaning something else. "I don't know," I said. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't a lie. It was a place I could stand while the room decided where our lives would go next. A doctor came out. Late 30s, ponytail, .com eyes. Her badge said Park Allison MMD, family of Robert Caldwell. She asked. We stood. He's stable, she said. Vitals soft but holding. Labs show a sedative on board combined with alcohol. That can depress respiratory rate and cause hypotension. He's awake. We're moving him for monitoring. My mother inhaled like air had a taste again. Sedative, she asked. Small. He doesn't take sleeping pills. Not that I know. Dr. Park nodded. It could have been something accidental, she said, and you could see in her eyes the list of ways accidental happens. We'll keep him overnight. Do you want to see him? My mother looked at me. I nodded. Go, I said. I'll wait here. I didn't want to see him yet. Not like this. Not with nurses between us holding the weight of what almost happened. She squeezed my hand and followed Dr. Park. I sat back down. The vending machine pretended to be helpful and sold me a bottle of water for too much money. I drank, and my mouth still tasted like red wine I didn't swallow. 20 minutes later, my mother came back with eyes that had cried and now refused to. She sat. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she did. What you went through, she said. The words careful, like they were stepping stones over a river. The dizziness. When you were a child, you had vertigo once for a day, and you kept saying the house was moving. It looked like that when your father looked at me. It looked like the house was moving. I didn't know what to do with that sentence. I nodded anyway. She folded and unfolded the edge of her sleeve. Then she said, My father collapsed like that, Ethan. I looked at her. I didn't blink. Grandpa, he went out with friends, she said, voice quiet, eyes on the past. They drank. Played cards. He came home late, but fine. In the morning, he didn't wake up. They said, heart attack. He didn't ask questions. We didn't have money for questions. I felt my jaw tighten. Was Dad one of the friends? I asked. I could hear the answer coming like a sound at the end of a tunnel. He was, she said, new to the family. New to the business. Charming. Smart. Your grandfather thought he could teach him. Robert told me later the night was normal. He told me not to drown in ghosts. I tried not to. The air changed around us, even with the same fluorescent light and the same cheap chairs. Some sentences do that. You rearrange the room. Mom? I said, my mouth dry. Did Grandpa have life insurance? She nodded slowly. Not much, she said, but the investment trust he managed. After he died, Robert helped sell the parcels. He said it was what my dad wanted. It saved us. Robert saved us. Or he saved himself. The thought arrived like a blade I didn't want to pick up. We went back to the house after the hospital let us know he'd be in observation overnight. The cake was covered in plastic. The lanterns were still on. Aunt Susan wiped counters like she could scrub time. Cousin Jake hugged me, long and awkward. People left in quiet pairs. My mother made tea. Because that's what you do with hands when your head can't stop. We sat at the kitchen table where I did homework in a different decade. Mom, I said, I think Dad put something in my wine. She closed her eyes. A slow tear threatened and didn't fall. I saw him, I said. Little bottle. He poured. Then he handed it to me. I switched the glasses. He drank his own. She opened her eyes. They were too bright. You're sure? She whispered. I am, I said. She set her hand on mine. It was warm, steady again. Margaret Caldwell woman, who held our family together with pie crust and iron. I believe you, she said. I don't know what he planned, I said. But if I hadn't swapped, I don't want to finish that sentence. She swallowed. I know, she said. We didn't sleep much. Morning came the way it always does when you haven't asked it to. The hospital called at 9. Ready for discharge, the nurse said. Vitals improved. He wants to go home. We drove back. He was dressed when we arrived. Suit jacket over a hospital gown print, peeking at the collar like a joke. He signed the discharge papers like he was closing a deal. He saw me. For a second, something in his face said he knew exactly what happened. How are you feeling? I asked. Better than you deserve, he said. so quietly only I could hear it. "What did you put in my glass?" I asked, equally soft. He smiled without teeth. "You're paranoid," he said. "You always were? Like your grandfather. Look what it got him." We looked at each other like two cliffs measuring the tide between them. Mother stood between us, arm in his. Not because he needed help walking, but because the story needed. To look like a marriage, for now, at the house, he went upstairs. He closed the door. We heard the shower. My mother stood in the hallway and closed her eyes like the water could wash the last 24 hours off her. It couldn't. Some things stick. I packed my bag. My flight was that night. I kissed my mother's cheek at the door. "Come to Seattle for a week," I said. "Please, just you. I want to show you the market. The Olympic Sculpture Park. Everything you never let yourself enjoy because you were busy being everyone's mother." She smiled a small smile that remembered how. "Maybe," she said. In the driveway, my father appeared at the upstairs window and watched me go. He didn't wave. On the plane, I bought Wi-Fi and spent 3 hours doing what you do when the ground under your life shifts. I called a lawyer. I set an appointment for a trust. I emailed my financial advisor. "Move my assets into a revocable trust governed in Washington state," I wrote. "Primary beneficiary, the Margaret Foundation to be formed. Secondary, charitable funds for youth tech education and domestic violence survivors. Exclude Robert Caldwell from any direct or indirect benefit. Immediate, I'm not naive. No, you can't wish safety into existence with paperwork. But you can close doors people shouldn't walk through." When I landed, Seattle felt sharper, clearer. I drove home and didn't turn on music, just listened to my fridge hum and my thoughts line up. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m. A San Francisco number. I didn't pick up. It buzzed again. I did. "Ethan," my father said. He didn't bother pretending to be gentle. "Come to the house tonight. We'll talk man to man." "We're at work," I said. "Bring your laptop." He said, "Bring your login. We'll fix this childish stubbornness together." "I'm not bringing anything," I said and hung up. 10 minutes later, a text arrived from an unknown number. "A photo of me and my mother on her porch yesterday, hugging. You look like your grandfather," the text read. No name, no context. A chill ran down my spine. He had people. Of course he had people. I forwarded the text to myself. To a folder with a name I'd know at a glance. Proof? I called someone else. Not a lawyer. Person you call when you want facts you can hold. "Detective Maya Rios," she answered. "Friend of a friend. SFPD. Good at finding crumbs." "Detective," I said. "I have a feeling my father once poisoned my grandfather." "No, he tried to poison me." "Slow," she said. Her voice didn't get excited or bored, just steady. "Tell me what happened. Tell me what you saw. Not what you think it means," I told her. Backyard, bottle, swap, fear. In his eyes when the room tilted. The hospital, Dr. Park. The text. My mother's story about Grandpa. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said, "There's no autopsy on your grandfather. That was decades ago. If I pull any record, it'll be a death certificate that says me and a file with coffee stains." "I figured," I said, "but can you?" "I don't." "No. Look into property transfers after he died." "Loans. Who got what?" "Yes," she said. "Public record is honest if you ask it enough questions. And the hospital will only talk to your mother about your father's labs, not you. But if she's willing, I can walk her through what to request." "She will," I said. "Do you feel safe?" she asked. I thought about my door, about the doorman downstairs who smiled at me without registering my last name or my father's reach. "Yes," I lied. "Mostly, move your money to a trust," she said. "Put a camera on your door. Don't meet him alone. Don't drink anything he hands you ever again." "Thank you," I said. "Don't thank me yet," she said. "Let me see the bones of this thing." We hung up. I ordered a camera. With same-day delivery, I called my mother. "A detective is going to call you," I said gently. "She's a friend. We need to ask the hospital for your consent to release the talk screen." My mother exhaled. "I'll pick up when she calls," she said. The afternoon was long in my apartment with the light. pooling against the windows like it wanted me to go outside and pretend this wasn't happening. I went to the gym because moving weights helps me think. I came back and found the gate camera already installed by a guy named Tyler, who called me boss and took off his shoes unprompted like a good guest. Small things matter when big things are broken. At 5:03 p.m., my phone lit. Detective Rios again. "We found something fast," she said. "Your father's name is on a deed transfer filed 6 months after your grandfather's death. Trust. Sold 3 parcels to a Shell LLC. Guess who controlled the LLC?" "Robert," I said. "Yep," she said. "Sold for below market. Flipped a year later for a profit that would have paid for a wedding and a few cars. Alone. Satisfaction recorded the same week your mother's family's mortgage vanished. So to them, he looked like a savior. And maybe he was both," I said. "Savior and thief. People contain multitudes," she said. "It's not a crime to be both charming and ruthless. It is a crime to poison someone." "Do we have anything?" I asked. "Your mother requested and received a copy of the lab summary," she said. "It shows sedative hypnotics in your father's blood, not just ethanol. Combined with the paramedic report and a certain doctor's note about patient denies, it suggests ingestion. Doesn't prove intent. Doesn't prove he meant to give it to you. But if we get that little brown bottle, it's at the house," I said. "In his suit, or he flushed it. Don't break in," she said, before I could ask. "If your mother lets you into the closet where your father's clothes are, and you happen to see a bottle, and you happen to take a photo before turning it over, those are choices some people make." "I understand," I said. "I called my mother," she answered on the second ring. "I'm going to fly down tomorrow," I said. "I need to help you pack a bag. You can stay with me for a while." "I can pack a bag," she said. "I've been doing that for other people my whole life." "I know," I said. "Let me do it this time." She was quiet then. "Okay," she said. "There's something else." "What?" "He's been making phone calls," she said. "2 people I don't know." He lowers his voice. He says, yes, equity, and we'll fix it. He owes me loyalty. He forgets I can hear even when I'm not in the room. I know who. "He's calling," I said. "The people who loan money to men when banks stop?" "I hate those people," she said softly. "So do I," I said. I flew back at dawn. The sky over San Francisco did its best impression of a kind day. The house did not. It felt like a stage after the actors left. Lights still hot. My mother had already packed a small suitcase. It made me happy and sad in a way I couldn't separate. "Upstairs," she said, rolling her eyes toward the ceiling. "He went out. Said he had urgent business. Left an hour ago." We climbed the stairs and moved in a way I didn't know you could move in your own house quiet, like burglars stealing proof. We stepped into the closet. His suits hung in perfect lines. My mother reached into the right jacket like she'd been putting his wallets back for 40 years. She put a little brown bottle in my hand. It was light. It rattled with a faint, sinister music. There was enough left to make a point. I took a photo with my phone. I texted it to Detective Rios. "Do not drink," I typed, because my brain needed to say something obvious to feel useful. She replied with a laughing emoji, and then bring it to me. "Do not leave it in your car. Do not put it in your checked bag if you fly. We'll arrange pickup." "Done," I wrote. Downstairs, my mother looked around the kitchen like she wanted to memorize it and forget it at the same time. She patted the counter once, the way people pat dogs and old furniture. A car pulled into the driveway. Tires on. Gravel. "The sound doesn't care if you're ready." We looked at each other. "Go," I said. "Out the back." "I'm not hiding," she said. Then she hid, because she's brave and smart. The front door opened. My father's voice. Not drunk. Controlled. "Ethan," he called. The house absorbed his voice. It always has. I stepped into the hallway with my mother's suitcase at my side like a declaration. "We're leaving," I said. He looked at the suitcase. At me. At the way my hand didn't shake. "Where are you going?" he asked, like he had a right to the answer. "Away," I said. "You're taking my wife," he said flatly. She's not your asset, I said. She's a person. She can choose where to sleep. He took one step forward. I took none. What did you put in that glass? I asked. What glass? He said. The one you handed me, I said. At the party. To my millionaire son. That one, he smiled. You've built a story, he said. You've always had a good imagination. You should write code again. It's less dangerous than telling lies. Lifted my phone, pressed play on a voice memo. His voice came out clean, quiet, a whisper from yesterday at the hospital. When he leaned toward me and said, "You're paranoid. Like your grandfather." Look what it got him. He didn't flinch. He didn't stop smiling. You really think you can trap me with half sentences in bad faith? He asked. No one will believe you? They believe the man who saved a family. From ruin, not the boy who ran away to play with computers. It's 2025, I said. They'll believe the lab test that says there were sedatives in your blood. They'll believe the photo of the bottle in your pocket. They'll believe the deed transfers after my grandfather died with your shell company on them. He took another step. Do you know what I believe? He asked. I believe you're still 9, and I can bend you. I believe you taught me what not to be, I said. And I listened. He stopped. Something in the stop said he had finally heard me. My mother walked out then. She wasn't hiding. She had her purse and her keys and the look she used on. Me and my cousins, when we were small and decided to do a thing she told us not to, it's only ever worked on those who loved her. Robert, she said, we're going to stay with Ethan for a while. Don't call me until you're ready to tell the truth. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He chose the fight he could lift. Can't take her, he said to me. It's not me taking her, I said. It's you chasing her away. We walked out the back. The gate clicked behind us. It sounded like a small freedom. We drove to a hotel by the airport. Safety sometimes looks like beige walls and a free breakfast. Detective Rios met us in the parking lot. Plain clothes, a tote bag, a smile that knows more than it says. I handed her the bottle. She handed me a receipt like we were swapping library books. I can't promise an instant arrest, she said. But this combined with the hospital note gives us leverage to ask the DA for an attempt charge. We'll need chain of custody. Sealed. We'll need your mother's statement. My statement, my mother said. Not yours?
Out!
Detective Rios said gently. But you'll carry it better if you say it first. My mother straightened a little. Okay, she said. I'm done whispering in my own house. We took a flight that night. Seattleites looked like forgiveness when we dropped through. The clouds. My mother sat by the window and put her hand on the glass like it could feel her. In the Uber from the airport, she looked at the market and said, I've always wanted to see that silly fish throwing. We'll go tomorrow, I said. Surprised by the way Hope had snuck into the car. Up in my apartment, I showed her the guest room. She touched the quilt. She touched the lamp. She touched a photo of me and her at a Mariners game when I was 16. You kept this? She whispered. Of course, I said. I made tea. She stood in the kitchen the way people stand in a church when no one else is there quiet, respectful of what the room means to someone. She looked older and younger at once. What happens now? She asked. We wait, I said. We build. We tell the truth. We set a boundary and keep it. And we invite someone to dinner tomorrow who wasn't expecting it. I think we need people. In this house. She smiled. A real one. Like who? She asked. Your call? I said. This is your week. She thought for a second. The concierge downstairs, she said. His name is Luis. He's always kind, and kindness deserves. Soup. Then we invite Luis, I said. And we make too much soup. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. I turned it over. A text. You're making a mistake that will cost you. No name. I blocked the number. My mother watched me do it. Your father is very good at choosing words that sound like power, she said. I'm tired. Sleep, I said. Here, I sat on the couch after she went to bed and watched the camera feed from my door. I don't usually like cameras in my home. I don't like what they say about our trust in the world. But tonight, I liked it fine. At 1:11 a.m., a notification popped up. Motion at the door. I tapped. The screen showed a man in a hoodie, standing with his back to the lens. Head down, hands in pockets. A stance that tries to make someone look smaller than they are. He turned his head slightly. It wasn't my father. It was a man whose face I didn't know, but whose haircut said he sits in a barber's chair every 10 days to look tidy for the wrong people. He tried the knob. It didn't turn. He put his ear to the door. I stood. The baseball badges. I have one. No. I don't play baseball was leaning against the wall. I took it quietly. He knocked, then 3 small taps, like a secret code. Luis. I said softly into the intercom feature, is that you? The man lifted his head. He looked at the camera, smiled without meaning love. Then he left. I called Detective Rios. Sorry, I said when she answered. He sent someone. Welcome to the part of the story where he uses all the tools. He has left, she said. I'll flag your building with patrol. Change your routine. Keep your mother close. We're moving the bottle to the lab in the morning. Thank you, I said. You keep saying that, she said. Make me soup when this is over. That's how we say thank you where I grew up. Deal, I said. I didn't sleep. I watched. The door in my head even when my eyes closed. Morning came anyway. I made coffee, and the apartment smelled like something normal and good. My mother walked out in my old college hoodie and sweatpants she must have packed for, just in case your father tries to kill you and you end up in Seattle. She laughed at herself when she saw her reflection. Look like I went back in time, she said. You look like someone safe. I said we went to Pike Place. We watched men throw fish like daredevils. We ate chowder that burned our tongues. And decided that was the point. We bought flowers. We walked back slowly and stopped a dozen times because the city had a lot to show off. We hadn't been paying attention for years. When we got to my building, Luis looked up and smiled. Mrs. Caldwell, he said. He always remembered names. That was his superpower. Luis, my mother said. Do you eat soup? I'm a professional soup eater, he said. Come at 6, she said. We're making too much. It's kind, he said, tapping the desk twice for luck. We cooked, chopped onions and cried and pretended it was the onions. We added too much garlic because that's how you say I love you without sounding silly. We set 3 plates. We added a 4th because the habit of making room is a good habit. At 5, Detective Rios texted. Lab confirms presence of sedative consistent with hospital screening, she wrote. Small amount left in the bottle matches this brand from a pharmacy your father used to frequent. DA wants a meeting at 9 tomorrow. Breath. Don't poke the bear tonight. Breathing, I wrote back. My phone buzzed again, this time a number I recognized. My father's. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. At 6, Luis came up with a plant. He admitted he was plant sitting for a neighborhood. Gone to Mexico. He put it on the windowsill and pretended it was ours. We ate soup that tasted like something you could live on even when you didn't want to eat. We told stories that weren't about what was happening. Told one that was. My husband, my mother said, is not well, but we are. We will be. Luis nodded like he understood more than we said. Stacked bowls and washed without being told where the soap was. Some people know how to be in other people's kitchens. Those are the people you invite again. At 8:14, my phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. His voice controlled. Ethan, he said. I think we've both overreacted. Come to the house tomorrow morning. We'll fix this before it gets bigger. I forwarded the voicemail. To Detective Rios, she replied in one word. Nope. Slept better that night. Not perfect, but better. The kind of sleep that shows up when you choose a side and stop trying to be polite to the person hitting you in the morning. My mother wore the green scarf she saved for good days. We drove to the DA's office. Detective Rios met us with coffee. In a folder that didn't look like much, but felt heavy when she put it in my hands. If we go forward, she said quietly in the hallway before we went in, this becomes public. The papers will write that a prominent former developer is accused of attempting to poison his son. They will call you Tech Millionaire. They will try to make it a spectacle. You don't have to do this. I do, I said. Not because of money, because of my mother, because of my grandfather, because of me when I was 9. My mother put her hand on mine. And because of whoever would be next if we didn't, she said. We went in. Asterisk, we went in. The conference room was all glass and daylight, with a view of a city pretending not to notice itself. A woman with a navy blazer and the kind of posture that says she reads everything sat at the end of the table. Deputy District Attorney Lauren Cho, she said, offering her hand. Beside her, a man with close-cropped gray hair and a tie. That had seen a lot of mornings, Investigator Klein. Detective Rios took a seat at our side like a quiet anchor. DDA Cho didn't waste a sentence. Mr. Caldwell, Miss Caldwell, she said, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I've reviewed the hospital summary, the paramedic narrative, and Detective Rios's preliminary memo. What we do next depends on evidence. Of intent. She turned to me. Tell me what you saw. Not what you think it meant. What you saw. So I did. The backyard. The lanterns. My father's hand and the small brown bottle. The swap. The swallow. The stutter in his balance. Whisper at the hospital. The text with the photo of me and my mother on the porch. The man at my Seattle door who didn't know how to knock like a neighbor. I put the photo of the bottle on the table. It's the chain of custody receipt. The lab email on Detective Rios's secure tablet that said the bottle contained a sedative hypnotic. Consistent with what was in my father's blood note brand names. No doses. Just the kind of medical English a jury would believe. DDHO listened, the way surgeons listen, eyes on the wound. Hands clean until they need to touch it. California. Penal Code 347 prohibits poisoning food or drink with intent to cause injury, she said. We don't need your father to confess I meant to kill you. We need him to choose the verb. Spiked, dosed, calmed. Anything that isn't accident. She folded her hands.
Here's what we can do if you're willing. A pretext?
Call. Either of you calls him, with me and Detective Rios present, and you ask the simplest form of the question, what did you put in the wine? We record. If he takes the bait, that's evidence. If he doesn't, we still have the bottle. Combined, that's enough to request a search warrant for the house and his office. If we find more toxins notes, a schedule we move. My mother looked at me. She didn't look afraid. She looked like someone done being small. I'll call, she said. We moved to a smaller room. It had a table, a speaker, a digital recorder the size of a playing card, and a box of tissues no one touched. Detective Rios dialed my father on my mother's phone, then slid it toward her. He picked up on the second ring. Margaret, he said, a careful warmth in his voice, the kind he puts on like a coat when he's around other people. Robert, my mother said. I'm not coming home yet. A beat. He swallowed something. No being dramatic, he said softly. This is family. You fix it in-house. I need an answer first, my mother replied. What did you put in Ethan's wine? Silence. Not long. Just long enough to hear the room's air conditioner whisper. Nothing, he said. You're both paranoid. Robert, she said, quiet but iron. I washed your suit. The jacket pocket was sticky. What did you put in the glass? He exhaled. If he was going to lie, he would have done it fast. He didn't. He chose a different road. A relaxant, he said. It's jumpy. I wanted him to stop waving his money in my face and listen to me. My mother closed her eyes. Detective Rios lifted a finger. Keep going. What relaxant? My mother asked. Something mild, he said. Ambi doesn't matter. It was a nudge. He would have slept. We all would have avoided a scene. Is that what happened to my father? My mother said a nudge. His control cracked. For the first time, his voice showed teeth. Your father drank like a fish, he snapped. He lost a hand at cards and thought he could win it back with the next pour. Don't rewrite history because your son got soft. Thank you, my mother said, and hung up. The room didn't cheer. The recorder didn't clap. Just sat. There. Full of words that finally matched the shape of the truth. DDA. Cho's mouth was a straight line that betrayed a sliver of relief. That's an admission of administering a sedative, she said. No lawyer will let him call it nothing now. We'll move on the warrants. By noon, a judge had signed electronically. By 3, 2 teams knocked on 2 doors. Old house and the tidy office suite where my father spent his days pretending to still be a king. I didn't go. I sat with my mother at a cafe neither of us had been to. We watched people order sandwiches like life was just bread and turkey and no one ever had to call. At 4:37, my phone buzzed. Detective Rios. We found more, she said. Unprescribed sedatives in a bathroom cabinet behind a false back. A note on yellow paper with a Walgreens pharmacy number and the words refill and cousin in quotes. And a spiral notebook with dates and amounts next to initial Z. M.S. I don't know who S is yet. The bottle you gave us is the same lot number as 2 half-full bottles in his office credenza. I looked at my mother. She didn't ask me to put it on speaker, just read my face and nodded once. Okay, she said. We're bringing him in, Detective Rios said. He's at the office. We'll book on PC 347 and PC 245 assault with a means likely to produce great bodily injury. Attempted poisoning. No bail on initial intake until arraignment. Do you want me to call you when he's in the cage? Or do you want to check the online portal quietly like the rest of the city? Call me, I said. An hour later, she did. He's here, she said. He asked for a lawyer. Didn't. Get to finish his "this is a misunderstanding" speech. I should have felt victory. I felt like a house you finally decide to sell. Empty, clean, rooms echoing with your voice. When you were too young to notice you were loved. That night, my mother slept hard. I didn't. I walked the deck and looked at a city that forgives a lot by offering you water and a horizon. I thought about being 9. About my father's hand tight on my small shoulder, for no reason except he could. About the time he didn't come home and my mother made crepes with powdered sugar and we pretended it was for fun. Not because food was the only ritual that didn't break when he did. Morning came honest. We went to arraignment. Courtrooms look boring on purpose, beige walls, tired chairs. The judge, I won't name him, read from a screen like it had never surprised him. People versus Robert Caldwell, he said. Count 1. Attempted poisoning under Penal Code 347. Count 2. Assault by means likely to produce great bodily injury under Penal Code 245. Enhancements. Special allegation for administering a substance facilitating a felony. It's lawyer expensive. Suit. Eyes like a hawk that got too used to easy prey. Pled not guilty. He asked for our own recognizance release because my client is a pillar of the community. DDHO reminded the judge of the recording and the bottle and the fact that pillars don't drug people to make family dinners easier. Bail was set high. Not Mars high. California high. He made it before lunch because men like him always know someone who owes them a favor. A restraining order was granted in the same breath. No contact with me or my mother. No third-party contact. No accidental show-ups. Surrender of passport. Surrender of firearms. He signed without looking at us. On the way out, he turned his head. It was a small movement, not enough to draw a deputy's scold. His eyes landed on me. They didn't look afraid. They looked curious. Like a man looking at a map and trying to find a road he used to take that isn't there anymore. We didn't speak. Outside, the sun worked too hard. Reporters had already sniffed it. Cameras, microphones. Mr. Caldwell, is it true? Mrs. Caldwell, are you Ethan, as a tech millionaire? That phrase? It follows you around like a bad perfume. I said one sentence. We trust the process. Then I got my mother into a car and we left. People shouted our names as if names were ropes they could pull to get a better angle. We cut the rope by closing. The door. The next week's became a civics lesson. His lawyer floated the story you'd expect. It was a misunderstanding. He added a little sleep aid to cut his son's arrogance. He was trying to de-escalate a scene, ignore the fact that there was no scene until he made one. If the press asked what was in the bottle, he said a brand name wrong on purpose. If they asked whether he meant harm, he smiled like he was the only adult in a room full of children. We didn't do press, we made soup. We invited Luis again. And our neighbor from across the hall who always helped old ladies get packages up the stairs whether they asked or not. We told them the truth in a small room, so we didn't need to shout it in a big one. Detective Rios called one night with a voice that said she'd been working too long. "Do you want a weird detail?" she asked. "I like weird," I said. "You remember the unknown man at your door?" she asked. "We pulled your building camera and a camera from down the block. We got a plate. Cars are rental in the name of a services firm that is, according to the Secretary of State, owned by an entity your father used to use for development. We're getting a subpoena for the rental records. I can't promise a clean line from him to Mr. Hootie, but I can promise we're pulling." "Thank you," I said. "You keep saying that," she replied. "I like hearing it." She also found S, the initial, in the notebook. Not a person. Store. S was Safeway line items for wine, flowers, party supplies, then a note, E candle. It wasn't evidence of grandeur. It was evidence of smallness. The way bad men reduce love to shopping lists, the preliminary hearing put the pieces on the record. Dr. Park testified cleanly. The paramedic did too. The recording was played aloud in that flat courtroom tone that turns words into bricks. My mother took the stand. When DSO asked, "Did the defendant ever admit to you that he put a relaxant in your son's drink?" she said, "Yes." When the defense asked, "Are you sure you didn't misunderstand?" she said, "No." He tried to get her to say the house had been tense and we all could have used a break. She didn't give him the sentence. The judge held both counts to answer. We moved toward trial because men like my father don't confess on a timeline that respects your healing. Then a thing happened I didn't plan for. My father called Detective Rios and asked for a meeting. "Off the record," he said. "There's no such thing in my office," she said. He came anyway, with his lawyer. They wanted a deal. We would plead to the poisoning attempt, not completed in, to an enhancement that would keep him from touching business licenses that require moral turpitude reviews. In return, no prison, just county time and probation with conditions, drug counseling, community service, donations he couldn't write off, a protective order that would outlive his patience. Didia Cho called me. "Doesn't feel like enough," she said, honest. "But it's a conviction that sticks. Trials are coin flips." "This isn't," I asked my mother. She looked at her hands for a long time. Then she said, "I don't need a courtroom to tell me what I already know. I need a barrier, need a path out." They told DDHO to take the deal if she could make the conditions make sense. She did. He pled. The judge looked tired when he said the word guilty out loud. Sentencing came with numbers that don't look like TV, 270 days county. To be served with a work release component, if the sheriff allowed, 3 years of formal probation, mandatory counseling, prohibition on possession of sedatives without a prescription, and a protective order that would pounce if he as much as breathed toward our side of the street. He was ordered to pay restitution for the hospital bill. The judge noted wryly that paying for harm you did isn't generosity. He didn't look at us. He looked at the ceiling. He's always thought he lives closer to it. We went home. It's funny how your body doesn't know how to relax when anxiety has been the map on the wall for years. You have to teach it. We did. It's on purpose. My mother filed for legal separation first, then divorce. She hired a kind lawyer who didn't want a war, just fairness. The house went up for sale. It looked smaller in the listing photos than it felt in my bones. She split the proceeds along lines that made her right with herself. She moved to Seattle. For a while, bought a small place with windows that light the morning. She hangs a green scarf on a hook by the door like a flag that says occupied. Robert called from a number he shouldn't have been anywhere near once. The protective order did its job. He got a visit. He didn't call again. Detective Rios sent us a photo from a ceremony we didn't attend. A box of evidence with a sticker that said disposed. The bottle, the receipts, the notebook. I didn't print it. I don't need to frame the past. We did something else instead. We started a foundation. The Margaret Fund, small at first, focused. Grants 2 shelters for women who don't have money. For questions. Scholarships named for my grandfather for kids studying civic accounting and nursing 2 ways to heal communities. Keep the numbers honest. Keep the bodies safe. Every Christmas, we set an extra chair. We've kept that promise. Sometimes the chair is filled by Luce's sister who just moved to town and is brave in a new city. Sometimes by Owen, the neighbor with the stiff leg who tells good jokes late in the meal. Sometimes by a young engineer. For my old company who doesn't fly home because airports are too expensive in December. We make cinnamon rolls for my mother's card. We get the yeast right now. The last loose end was a grave on a hill 2 towns over. We drove there on a Sunday with flowers that looked like the color of apology in sunlight. My mother stood in front of her father's stone and spoke out loud. "Not long, just enough, Dad," she said. "We didn't see it. We didn't ask the right questions. We survived and thought that meant we were done. We weren't. We fixed it as best we could." She put her hand on the cool granite. Then she put a small stone on the top because someone once told her that's how you mark a visit that mattered. We stood there for a while, not saying the parts that make your voice wobble. On the way back, we stopped at a diner where the coffee tastes like coffee and the pancakes taste like somebody's aunt is in the kitchen and refuses to retire. My mother looked out the window at a world that kept going whether we caught up or not. "I used to think safety was being quiet," she said. "Turns out it's telling the truth and taking your keys." I laughed. It felt different now. Lighter. People ask me sometimes, because once your story brushes headlines, people feel like they get to ask if I regret swapping the glasses. If I feel guilty that my father drank what he poured for me. If I think about what would have happened if I hadn't noticed. I don't play with those timelines much. You can get lost in them. I know this. I saw a hand and a bottle and a smile that didn't reach the eyes. I chose to live. I chose to show my mother how to choose to. We didn't win anything. That's not how this works. Just stop losing. On purpose. If you're sitting with a glass in your hand and a history you haven't named, if the person who trained you to be small is offering you a toast to your success, with a smile that reminds you of nights you'd rather forget. To the part of you that knows the temperature of danger, you're not paranoid. You're alive. The law helped. The paper helped. The detective helped. The DA helped. But the thing that changed the story was when we stopped being polite to the person holding the poison. A year later, on my mother's 61st, we threw a party in Seattle. String lights on the deck, jazz on the speaker, cinnamon rolls I still don't ice evenly. Luis brought his partner. Owen brought a joke he'd been practicing. The chair for a guest was filled by a barista from the cafe we go to on Tuesdays, because she's far from home and makes coffee like medicine. Halfway through the night, my mother raised a glass sparkling water with lemon and said, "To the people who loved us back to ourselves." People clinked. I watched her face in the gold light, and for a second, I saw the version of her that never had to pick the wrong man and survive him. Then I looked at the woman she is, and I loved her more. I don't know where my father is now. Probation has rules, and the internet has ways of telling you more than you need. I wish him healing that doesn't come at someone else's expense. I don't wish him a seat at our table. That seat is for people who bring their whole hearts and leave their bottles at the door.